So the first one is the outer zone alarm. And let's say if someone unauthorized wants to just hop over the missile silo barbed wired fences. So first, they might get hurt trying to hop over. And it's not that tall at all. And before they even get close to the launcher closure door, this tall pole has already triggered an alarm. And this can literally detect any movement like a Doppler radar around the surrounding area. And if you get caught when the SF team gets there, you're definitely going to jail. Literally anything can trigger it, like leaves blowing past by on a windy day, a rabbit could be running around on site, or a maybe huge chunk of ice melting, or a piece of ice fell from the light pole inside the fenced area and it splashed somewhere, and that sudden motion will trigger it too. Missileers underground will see these indications and immediately dispatch security forces to check out the site and then reset the alarm. But what if someone tries to drill their way into the launcher from far away? Well, the Air Force has thought about that too. And so they built some inner alarm system called the IZ alarm, which can detect any movement inside the launcher. And it can even be triggered if someone touches, for example, the hatch combination lock dial. They call it the A pit. And these things are extremely sensitive. It's nearly impossible for someone to sneak in without any warning. And it's the same thing back at the missile alert facility. If someone spends a year digging their way slowly to one of the sites, there is also an intrusion alarm system in the elevator shaft. If someone was to do that, they already have sent the security team to check it out. To add another layer of security by maximizing the situation awareness in the field, another launch control center nearby can also see the alarm going off. And now you got everyone's attention, even if the nuke officer responsible for that particular site fell asleep on duty, or just wasn't paying attention. If there is no proper authentication or any known maintenance activities in the area, OZ and IZ combined alarms will immediately ramp up the security protocol to investigate the site. So, at one point, there was a rumor going around saying some Navy SEALs unit or some Tier 1 unit was able to capture one of the sites and the underground missile alert facilities as a part of a major exercises to exploit the system. But there seems to be no credible evidence of that ever happening. Unless it was a coordinated effort from corrupted people all agreed to do this one thing on the exact day. And for that to even work, it has to be the perfect timing. And then put all the corrupted people on the same work schedule, including people at the Military Command Center in DC, and also those people at the US Strategic Command. And then just magically bypass all the security without any suspicion? Also somehow get the nuke officers to open the giant blast door, which that door can only be opened from the inside. And that just sounds too crazy to be true. It just seems nearly impossible at every level. If anyone were to do a chemical attack at the missile alert compound, let's just assume that they were able to wipe out everyone topside through sheer firepower. If that happens, and the only way it could maybe work is if multiple sites are being attacked and the Air Force ran out of people and resources, because the missile field is huge and it's impossible for SF teams to be everywhere at the same time. Also, there is a very high chance that nuke officers underground had sealed the air duct system to prevent any chemicals or gas from entering the launch control center. Even if they cut off the power from the grid, the Launch Control Center has its own battery and system to sustain itself long enough until reinforcement arrives. These blast doors that can survive a near-miss nuclear strike can also be latched with multiple thick pins coming out into the door frame, adding even more hardened security. So no one is getting in. Not possible. The next one is the seismic alarm, because the earthquake can mess up the accuracy of these weapons. And these launch tubes underground also have this dampening system to keep the Minuteman aligned and calibrated, so it's unaffected by any seismic movement if it has to launch. The system is built to detect seismic movements, even if it's lower than earthquake magnitude level of 2, happening on the other side of the planet can trigger the alarm. Then the missile will automatically calibrate to maintain accuracy. The people who designed this have thought about everything, like literally every possible thing that could happen, and it also ensures that the alarm doesn't confuse with an intrusion alarm, so they don't waste security forces manpower to check out the site if it's not caused by human intruders. Now, the Air Force has built these older infrastructures a very long time ago. But all these sites are interconnected throughout the missile field to have backup, redundant safety and control. So each missile wing has 3 squadrons, and each one has 5 launch control centers. Each has 50 missiles they can control. And I mean, this is some Skynet stuff that people back in the day have already thought about. So these Minuteman nukes don't just go rogue on their own like in the movie Terminator, where all these missiles just self-launch without any human intervention at all. So to ensure these sites are in full control every second of every day, the missile has this thing called the interrogation system that basically says, hey, you humans sitting in the control center, are you still there? If you're there, I will check in with you, so then I'm letting you know I'm still here under your control. Okay? And this is all happening by itself through these, they call it the Higgs cable, that stretch everywhere across the missile field, and it's not connected with the internet. And even if somehow the line got cut or something got disconnected, or maybe some farmers out there drilled the wrong hole for oil, digging for gold, or whatever the case is, these sites will automatically find the next available connection. Maybe even the nearby control center can take over. Let's imagine World War III broke out and everyone has died, and somehow aliens or whoever attacking the United States has also killed everyone in the launch control centers. And now what? Are those nukes just going to sit there and just be there and do nothing? Well, some engineers back in the 60s have definitely thought about it, and they came up with this idea that if, and only if, everyone has died and no one is in the control capsule, whether they got hit and there are still some ICBMs left to shoot off, these nukes should have another way to launch. And the only way is to let them go into radio control mode, if they haven't already. Then the Aerial Launch Control Center out of Nebraska can take over and launch them only at the highest DEFCON level. So for day-to-day, these nukes don't fully trust the human either, because it's just another security layer to ensure humans are still there to do their job only when they are told. If someone goes rogue and tries to even enable these missiles, the rest of the squadron can also crank out inhibit commands to cancel the enable. And literally everyone is watching out for everyone unless it's time to launch after receiving a valid and authenticated order from the president. Otherwise, in an end-of-the-world scenario, these nukes can actually go into radio mode on their own after their timer expires and haven't heard from the humans. Then it's going to assume it's going to receive command from somewhere, and it's the human's job to not let that happen if there isn't a war going on. And of course, aerial launch control can't just take over either, so this type of control system is nearly impossible to hack at all, and no one in these nuclear missile unit has full control of the entire launch process. And if the worst case scenario happens, like the end of the world type of scenario, and no one is at the launch control center, not sure how that will ever happen, but the system will override after a certain time, and then it will give the launch authority to the aerial launch control. If you think about it, it's scary to think if anyone that gets hold of the radio signal could potentially launch these missiles. But that is not going to happen because all these missiles can't launch by themselves without getting enabled first. And they can't launch if there aren't 4 sets of hands turning switches at the same time. In addition, it also needs another launch control to send another key turn to launch just one nuke. So, no missile can even be digitally enabled without the properly authenticated message from the President of the United States. But what if someone is just really smart and was able to pull something off like tempering with stuff inside the capsule when one guy is sleeping? Well, it can definitely happen, but they are not going to go far, because some of these code components on the console have special seals on them. If any of them broke, no one can go into rest, and everyone has to stay awake to enforce two-person control. And you bet there will be a huge investigation, and whoever even tries to do that will probably go to military prison. Basically, it's this idea of I'm watching you, and you are watching me. And everyone is being watched when working around sensitive information. In a way, it's a system that wants the best people on alert, but also not fully trust them. And that's just how it is. And every missileer is tested and checked to ensure they are mentally stable before even letting them go on alert. Basically, no one can steal anything, no one can launch it by themselves, and no one can launch it without receiving the code buried in encoded messages. No wonder these are the world's most guarded facilities. It's highly secured, and there is no chance that a single person can accidentally launch a nuclear missile by mistake. There is just no way. Now, the Air Force has planned to replace these Minuteman missiles with the new Sentinel. But if you want to learn more about all the nuclear missile replacement, watch this one here.